so it goes, and so it goes, and so it goes, and so it goes.
What do you think got me this job?
Who do you think got me? Oh, darn it. Shoot. I've been...
Moving Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time. This is Kristin Bry with As Goes Wisconsin.
Yada, yada, yada.
Hello, Wisconsin!
Hello, Wisconsin. Welcome to the No Sour Haha Fun Time Power Hour on this Thursday, May 18th. And we are so excited to have our sports guy back, Paul Noonan, who covers the Packers for Shepherd Express and Acme Packing Company and is the host of the weekly podcast Reporting as Eligible, which is on the Packers, and Milwaukee's Tailgate podcast on the Brewers. Paul Noonan, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, of course. Well, a topic that we haven't talked about, I don't know if we've ever talked about it together, is how the Badger football team is shaping up. And I read this the other day that according to new analysis from CBS Sports, quote, no team is going through a bigger overhaul than Wisconsin after coach Luke Fickell opted to move away from the power run offense that has defined a program for decades. And he may just be onto something. So what is going on with the Badger football team?
That is absolutely true. And part of that is because the Badgers are starting from kind of a little bit of an old school kind of program. You know, we've always had the good Badger running backs since Barry Alvarez was around. And you can do that in college, or at least you could until right now. But college football is changing drastically right now. Starting in 2024, there's essentially going to be two major conferences. The Big Ten and the SEC are both expanding. They're going to be gigantic. And if you want to compete, you actually have to up your game a little bit. And that's what Luke Fickell is going to bring to the table here. He is a very different but outstanding coach. And he's actually, I think, a little bit hard to put in one bucket. The last few places he's been has been very pass heavy, like that article says. But he really does just kind of adapt to all of the major developments in college football offense when he gets to a new place. And he's not against running. In fact, I think they'll probably run more than people think they will, just because they're built to run now. And you can't just change the whole personnel of a team in one season, although he's trying really hard. But he runs all modern concepts. Things that you'll hear a lot with Luke Fickell. You hear a lot of air raid. You'll hear a lot of RPO. And that is kind of how college passing games are built now. Much more than what the Badgers have done in the past. It's going to be a lot more spread out, a lot more wide open, and there's just going to be a lot more passing than we're used to. And he's been playing the transfer portal a lot as well. The Badgers have brought in a ton of new players. They've also shipped out quite a few. This goes both ways. It's a zero-sum game there. But they have rebuilt that program in a hurry very, very quickly, and they look like one of the big boys now. They really do.
And so with that, I guess, like, how does that... Because we're so used to on professional teams seeing players come in and they get traded and it's a job and you get treated like a commodity because you're part of the product that can be bought and sold for a lot of money. But as far as we see this a lot with professional sports, but to see the turnover at a collegiate level of like this, of how many guys are coming in and how many guys are going out, because to a certain extent, I don't know, call me nostalgic, but it also feels like it's your college sports. I mean, a lot of these guys are not going to play in the NFL, and like it's kind of getting uprooted for being with one team for your college career.
It's really weird, honestly. I'm used to that. I'm much more old school like that. I'm of two minds, because on one hand, you're right. A lot of these guys aren't going to make it in the pros, and this is $1 billion industry. They should probably make something by doing it above and beyond what scholarships are. The one that's always gotten me about college sports is that you couldn't sell your likeness or name for anything. Like, it's one thing for colleges to not pay you directly. It's another thing to stop you from being paid by other people, and gets into some black. But on the other hand, there was something nice about Wisconsin football being run by people from Wisconsin, like an offensive line of, big farm boys who dominated in the trenches, is kind of nice. And now it's just a national sport. It is very much like the NFL in that there are no regional benefits anymore. If you are a good football player, you'll be known to every team and they will make you offers like you're a professional. There's not really, I think, a way of going back on this anymore. It's just such a big business and there is money to go around. So it is kind of an adapt or die world, and it's going to look very different going forward for everybody, especially Wisconsin, where we are used to that sort of old timeyness a little bit. But good for them for leaning into it, because the alternative is to kind of fade into irrelevance.
Our guest on As Goes Wisconsin is Paul Noonan. He covers the Packers for the Shepherd Express and Acme Packing Company, and also hosts the weekly podcast Reporting as Eligible on the Packers and Milwaukee's Tailgate podcast on the Brew Crew.
And so with that, I guess another thing that is ending, along with our nostalgic way of Wisconsin football being Wisconsin, is that after more than 50 years of covering Wisconsin athletics, Mike Lucas is retiring. Do you have feels about that?
Ah, um, Mike Lucas is an interesting guy because he basically made being into the Badgers more than everyone else in the world his career. And
His entire
I mean,
personality.
yes, I know him mostly as just the color guy opposite Matt LePay. That when I listen on the radio, which I do kind of a lot. But he's done like everything. He's been a hockey announcer. He's written and broadcasted and been involved in every major sport. For the like. He used to write for the Daily Cardinal and the Badger Herald. That's how far Mike Lucas goes back in contributing to Wisconsin from a sports reporting perspective. So it is definitely losing a bit of an institution. And just, I don't know that you can just be a guy who's super into stuff, sticks around, and makes a career out of being involved in every major Wisconsin sporting event of the last half century.
Yeah.
Losing him is definitely going to leave a bit of a hole. And
Yeah.
him and LePay have pretty good chemistry. So
Who do you think replaces him? Do you have any guesses?
I do not have any good guesses as to who replaces him, and probably not somebody who's as big into the program. A lot of announcers just tend to be replaced with the good voice, the guy who is working up from somewhere else. Not like I don't want to call Mike Lucas a fan, because he is a professional, but it's interesting to have sort of a super fan in that role, which is kind of what you get. You won't get that again. That's the big thing there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, switching sports entirely. How is the Brew Crew looking?
They're tricky because they've actually been pretty good. They've been hovering in first place in the division and still are. They had a little bit of a rough series in St. Louis, but they put together a few good games. They swept the Royals. Their big problem is they're really, really hurt, which is kind of been the case all year. Wade Miley left his last start after just 2 innings with a lat issue, which is not a good pitcher injury, by the way. And they're already down Brendan Woodruff. Corbin Burns hasn't been himself since he experienced he's been pitching. He pitched yesterday, but their pitching depth is really being tested. And they came into the season with good pitching depth. It's just they're at the end of the rope right now and are really going to be pushed to get innings out of people for the foreseeable future. They're also entering a really hard part of the schedule. They just got out of St. Louis. They have to go to Tampa Bay, who is just a complete juggernaut of a baseball team this year, by far the best team in baseball. And so that's a really tall order for them too. They've been good. They've been feisty and have been sticking around, but they need to get some people back because they're running out of bodies.
How do you think we match up against the Astros?
Is that
that's next week. I asked because we were just asking because we just gave tickets away for next week for Monday through Wednesday.
Yes. So
and then I'm going to ask you the trivia question, which I'm sure you're going to answer. You're going to know.
So the good thing about the Astros is they probably will get a Burns and Peralta start there. I think how that's lining up right now. And Houston is good but not great this year. They're still one of the better teams in baseball. They're not as good as Tampa is. But the Brewers are at their best when they've got their couple of studs who are healthy going, and they should be lined up pretty well to in that series. It's also at home. It'll be nice to actually get off of a fairly substantial road trip. So I think they'll be okay against Houston. That one I think will be a good test for them and a good recovery period if they can get through the buzzsaw that they're about to go through in Tampa.
Yeah. We asked, this was our trivia question. What was the championship year that the Astros got caught cheating?
The banging scandal. I think it will. That one seems so long ago, but it wasn't that long ago. Was it 2020?
See, oh yeah, no, it was 2017, but
It
that
was?
was one
Okay,
of
it was
the
a
people
long
who
time
called
ago
in
now.
also said 2020. But I
Yeah.
feel like they've been in and out of the news for that scandal since
Yeah, it
then.
just stick around so long. Like
Yeah.
it's in everybody's consciousness that I love that scandal because it's both highly technical and the most untechnical thing ever. Like it involved a lot of complicated reading and video replay and sitting, but then it ultimately came down to bagging a garbage can, which I do kind of just love how that worked out.
So explain it a little bit more, because I was trying to read it as we were talking about it, because it's like, what did they actually get in trouble for?
So the main thing they actually got in trouble for was using video in the stadium to steal signs. That's fundamentally, but
Oh.
the funny thing is how they communicated the sign stealing. So they had a camera in center field that would read the catcher, and then that would relay back to the dugout, actually a tunnel behind the dugout. And then based on whether it was going to be like a fastball or not, a guy would hit a garbage can. So that was the sign to the batter that's it was going to be a fastball or not. And the reason they got caught, first of all, baseball's full of nerds. You're gonna get caught on that. But you could hear it on the broadcast, and you can go on YouTube, and there are plenty of people pointing it out to you. That yeah, there's this banging going on that you can hear audibly on the TV broadcast whenever it's going to be a certain kind of pitch. So that's what they did, and that's how they got caught.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, now you know. All right. Well, let's take a break quickly, and then when we come back, I want you to tell us what we should know about Jonathan Owens, besides that he is Simone Biles' husband, and any other Packers news, and then we'll wrap it up. But our guest is Paul Noonan, who covers the Packers and for Shepherd Express and Acme Packing Company. We will be back in just a minute. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
In contrast, you really suck. Okay, full disclosure, we're not that great, but nevertheless, you suck. Your sports team will suffer swift defeat. That theory's backed up by empirical evidence. We're gonna grind up your guys into burger meat. Again, of course, we're speaking in the figurative sense. What's the use of even going through the motions when you know that you're gonna lose anyhow? So why don't you save us all some time and give up now? So why don't you save us all some time and give up now? Lose anyhow.
When snack time rolls around, don't settle for the same old, Spice it up with Emmanuel's Mix. Imagine this: corn rice cereal, pretzels, and mammoth pecans, plus a unique coating that perfectly melts sweet and salty. Emmanuel's Mix Spicy Blend even won first place in the Grand Champion Eats and Treats competition at the Wisconsin State Fair. Now that's tasty. A proud member of Something Special from Wisconsin and served on the sweet level of Fiserv Forum. Emmanuel's Mix. Log on to emmanuelsmix.com. That's emmanuelsmix.com and get snacking.
Man, this house is in need of a few upgrades. Windows, doors, even the basement needs a little TLC. With the Inflation Reduction Act, you can have all these assessed and addressed. It's there for you. Doesn't matter the age or condition. Call Green Homeowners United, the only woman-owned, union-affiliated residential energy efficiency firm in Milwaukee County. They'll take you through the journey of getting an energy-efficient and beautiful home. Claim all your discounts. Call 414-604-6450. That's 414-604-6450. Weather brought to you by FreshFin, bringing you a fresh and healthy fast casual experience. Seafood, chicken, pork, or tofu. The bowl options at FreshFin are endless. Check them out at the corners of Brookfield, Bayshore Mall, East Side, and 3rd Ward, or online at freshfin.com.
Thank you for listening to your local Civic Media radio station on air. Now join us anytime by finding and following our Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram pages. You'll also find social media links for your favorite shows and hosts on our website, civicmedia.us.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times this afternoon, with highs around 70. Southerly winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Scattered thunderstorms likely tonight. Lows dip down to about 56. Overcast skies. Cloudy skies expected tomorrow. Scattered thunderstorms likely. High temperatures reach up to 64. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 64 degrees.
Sports go sports. I promise I really totally care who wins. If there's a net or a hoop or a hole in the ground, I hope they get it in. If they want to go to all the bases, I hope they do. If they're supposed to run past a line or whatever, I hope they do that too. Sports go sports.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristin Bry. She is Jane Madnair, and we are joined by Paul Noonan, Wisconsin sports writer with Brewers and Packers and Badgers. And is there anything? What do you not cover? What should we not ask you about?
I don't do a ton of Bucks.
Okay.
I like basketball. I follow the Bucks, but I'm like not super into the Bucks, and I'm not a huge expert. Anything I would tell you would be told by somebody smarter than me. So that's my big one.
That's a big one. Maybe I'll save this for JR then when he comes back next week. But thoughts on this like prodigy, this like 7'5".
I
can't even pronounce his name.
I can't either, and I should be able to. You know, I actually famously can't pronounce anybody's name. I don't watch most of my sports with the sound on. I usually have music on instead. So I usually get on my podcast. It's almost shtick that I get corrected on how to pronounce everybody's name. The one thing I'll say about this prodigy, though, 7'4" skinny guys tend not to last very long injury-wise in the NBA, and I'd be very worried about spending. He's apparently awesome, but that is often too tall unless you look like Shaq, and nobody looks like Shaq.
And it's interesting. I think about this like when we think about Bo, who was the guy who played both baseball and football?
Bo Jackson.
Bo Jackson. I wanted to say Bo Ryan. I was like, nope, that's definitely the coach, not the player. Bo Jackson. And I mean, that's like with the way that sometimes athletes are built, where you're that fast and like your hamstrings are that tight, like. You're going to do when you play, it's going to be great, but you're so prone to injury, like when you're just built different.
Yes, indeed. And he is, but
he is.
Yeah. Like I don't like like when we drafted Andrew Bogut, and nothing against Andrew Bogut, just 7-footers tend not to be out there that much for the most part. And it's always a risk to do that. And he had injury problems his whole Bucks career too.
So we will see. But another thing we will see is some interesting Packers news. We touched on a little bit yesterday because poor Simone. Some people say poor Simone Biles, but her husband has been signed to the Packers as a safety, Jonathan Owens, and she tweeted out asking for tips of things to do in Green Bay, and we said, well, they just got voted best place to live, so there's that.
And actually, Paul, we're referring to him now as Mr. Biles.
Mr. Biles makes sense.
But
I mean, that's how it should be.
What should we know about Jonathan Owens?
So as a player, so Jonathan Owens is now in a long line of very athletic safeties that the Packers have. They have a lot of them. They definitely have a type. And a lot of this is driven by their special teams. And you guys probably remember Packers special teams was atrocious as recently as 2 years ago, cost them in the playoffs. It looks very much like their new special teams coordinator from last year, Rich Bisaccia, has kind of taken over safeties because he likes having safeties on special teams, and he keeps getting guys like John Owens, who is a top 95% athlete at his position. He is extremely good. He is not very accomplished, but he is also a small school guy. He went to Missouri Western for college. And one thing about small school guys is they sometimes take a little while to come around. It's a big adjustment to go even from high level college to the NFL. When you're coming from the second division, that's a huge jump. He's played for the Houston Texans for the last 4 years. He's not that young. He's 27. But they might be getting him at kind of the right time. He was very, very good and very sure at making tackles last year in his first big stint as like an actual starter. And the Packers don't really have any safeties. Adrian Amos is likely not coming back. I think they just actually gave his number away. And Darnell Savage, their other starting safety, is likely moving to something like more of a slot corner, which is maybe where he's better anyway. And so there's nobody at safety. Like there's just a bunch of guys who used to be on other teams who are really good athletes. And Owens is one of them. I think they got him to possibly start or at least play a major role on defense and special teams. So you'll probably see a lot of him. I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the field kind of a lot. And while he hasn't played a ton, he's looked pretty good when he has. So they might have something here. He might actually be a pretty good player.
All right. Well, that's great. And then he can double date with AJ Dillon.
Yeah, exactly. They can go carousing in Door County together. I love AJ Dillon's advocacy for for the Green Bay Door County area. It's fantastic, and they couldn't have a better ambassador. Actually, they should keep him around forever just for that.
And just for that, absolutely. So I guess last question before we let you go. Now that Aaron Rodgers is gone, who's going to be the focus of your parody songs?
Oh, it's sad to lose him. Honestly, it makes things a lot trickier,
A lot harder.
Yeah, probably just coach focused until a personality develops.
Okay.
But it's I gotta get my voice back before I can sing anyway. So,
Sure.
but it's gonna be a rebuild. There'll be a lot of fodder for that kind of thing. There'll be people who disappoint and people who succeed. So hopefully more positive ones. I actually don't like making fun of people. You know?
I was gonna say there's probably something there with an AJ Dillon Door County song.
It's actually a really good idea.
Or like Quadzilla, King of the North,
King of the North.
New King of the North. I don't know. There's probably something there. Maybe we could.
Oh,
maybe we can.
Game of Thrones potential now and everything with the King of the North. Ooh, you got
But
some
that
stuff
was
to
Aaron
work with, Paul.
Rodgers. He was King of the North for a while, so I feel like we might have to retire that for a while. But like King of Door County, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll keep my brain turning for you.
I will too. I wrote a couple that I couldn't sing because they were not in my range, and now it's too late. So, alas, we'll get there.
Alas. All right. Well, Paul Noonan, as always, thank you for joining us. We'll see you in about 2 weeks.
Sounds good. Thanks
All
again.
right. When we come back, what do you do? How much money are you willing to spend on your sick pet? I'm asking for a friend / asking for me because it's an like when they get sick, what is your threshold? Because it adds up quickly. So 844-967-2789. How much are you willing to spend on a sick pet? This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Participants are heroes. Go team, yeah! This is the most important thing that's ever occurred. The vicarious fulfillment of your dream that got deferred. You had aspirations as a kid, but you didn't have the skill. So you watched genetically superior people do the things you never will. Sports go sports. They're the competitors you prefer best, their opposing equivalents. So you can somehow feel connected to the feet of your self-appointed constituents. Maybe hours you spend watching post-match pontificators amplify the thrill of being a witness and better your predictive aptitude for your squad. Future physical fitness, sports go sports. Athletics are number one. Participants are heroes. Go team, yeah! Sports go sports. Athletics are number one. Participants are heroes. Participants are heroes. Go team, yeah! Sports go sports. Athletics are number one. Participants are fun. Participants are...
From As Goes Wisconsin to Under the Helmet with the Gravedigger, Gilbert Brown. This is The Shaw, 540 AM and 101.1 FM, WAUK.
CBS News Brief. A big win for social media. The Supreme Court says Twitter and other platforms cannot be held liable for giving access to militant groups, even if they cause a terror attack. Analyst Jessica Levinson.
It's a good day for social media companies. The Supreme Court did not upend our legal understanding of really broad protections for them.
The GOP presidential field is about to get a little more crowded. CBS's Ed O'Keefe says Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is jumping in.
Two sources close to Governor DeSantis tell CBS News his official filing as a candidate is now set to come next week.
The FDA has not approved over-the-counter birth control yet, but Washington State Senator Patty Murphy says if it is cleared, it should be covered by insurance.
It's not enough for an over-the-counter birth control to be approved. For it to be accessible, it has to be affordable.
And if it does get the green light, 2 other Democrats want to introduce legislation to lower its cost. CBS News Brief, I'm Monica Ricks.
Your home for local news, weather, and sports across the airwaves and always streaming on the Civic Media app.
For Civic Media, I'm Jane Madnair. Here's what you need to know. The Waukesha first grade teacher who spoke out about the district's decision to ban the song Rainbow Land has been recommended for termination. CBS 58 reporting Melissa Temple, who's been on administrative leave for a month, received a formal letter from Superintendent Dr. James Sieber on May 15th recommending that the Board of Education fire her, this after the district concluded its investigation. Temple said she believes the district's actions aren't looking out for, quote, what's in the best interest interest of the students, unquote. UW River Falls getting $20,000 in state grant money for meat processing infrastructure. The money will increase student learning opportunities and help address a meat processing shortage in Wisconsin. UW River Falls, one of 8 applicants getting part of the $200,000 in grant money from the 2021-23 state budget. I'm Jane Matnair. This is Civic Media News.
Hey, this is Lindsay Kindred at 540 WAUK The Shaw. At Civic Media, we love our local communities and want to share your stories. Submit your local event and we'll let our listeners know. Email me, Lindsay Kindred, at info@civicmedia.us. That's info@civicmedia.us.
Zocalo Food Truck Park is so much fun. They have such variety in one place. You name it. Ice cream, bagels, sushi, tacos, pizza, to tasty sandwiches, and a fun full bar to boot with some craft cocktails and beers. You can even host a private party or reserve a heated hut. Support local food entrepreneurs with family and friends and Taste Milwaukee. Open Tuesday through Sunday. Find us at ZocaloMKE.com. That's ZocaloMKE.com.
Hey, this is Matt from Design Garden. Remember when the internet was new? Back then, you had to leave your house to start a business. Companies used to pay programmers bags of cash to get online. Now, small businesses can get online with a Facebook business page or Squarespace, or Google My Business or WordPress? But which tools should you use? Can you afford to go down the wrong path? Design Garden uses modern tools to build your website the right way. Find us online at design.garden. Again, that's design.garden.
This is the story of a very special woman. Just a few knew about her superpowers. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and
Wisconsin. I am Kristin Bry. She is Jane Madnair. How much are you willing to pay for a sick pet? 844-967-2789. What have you paid for a sick pet?
What did your pet eat?
Or what did your pet eat that they required some assistance? 844-96-party. Because on Wednesday night, I don't even know what caused me to think this or ask this. Sitting on the couch with Mike and Cliff. Mike is the husband, Cliff is the dog. And if you're new here.
And Cliffy's an older dog.
Cliffy's a rescue. So we rescued him when he was about 10 in 2020. So he's somewhere between 12 and 13 now. He is a Chihuahua mixed with something. But he's like, he sleeps a lot, but he's still, when we go for walks, he doesn't like meander. He's got some energy. He definitely keeps energy to bark at other dogs and bark at strangers who come in the house. Loves food. And really he had like kennel cough once since we've gotten him. Has had zero digestive issues. He's not a toy. He doesn't like toys. So he doesn't really get into much. And so he's been very easy. But he's old. And so, we've had a friend who recently lost their dog and she's still really struggling with it. And it's just made me think, like what are we willing to pay? Like, what are we willing to do? And we've never had that conversation. So sitting on the couch on Wednesday, and I just kind of said to Mike, I was like, should we have a conversation about to make sure we're on the same page as far as what we would spend? Because he's too old for puppy insurance. And I think he kind of he's like, yeah, whatever. Like he didn't even answer the question. Like it didn't become a conversation. So then yesterday morning, I wake up, I start prepping for the show. Cliff usually sleeps in with Mike anyways, unless he really has to go to the bathroom and comes and gets me. But I got him around 8 or so, and I take him outside, and he keeps trying to eat grass, which he never does. Like I've seen other dogs do that, but I've never seen I've never seen Cliff. And literally every time he stops when I think he's going to sniff for something and find his spot to pee, he tries to eat a piece of grass. And I did not realize that this is something that dogs do when they have their stomach hurts.
Yes.
So I'm being a jerk and I'm like, stop eating grass. And I'm like pulling his collar and stuff. And so we go back inside. I say to Mike, he keeps trying to eat grass. Mike tells me, well, his stomach might hurt. So then I go to make his breakfast. When I tell you this dog loves food, he just whimpers until his food gets set down. We have to have him like stay out away from the kitchen. I put his food down, didn't touch it. And so we were like, well, this isn't good.
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
And I leave for work. Mike stays home and works from home. And once we get done with the show yesterday, I check in. He's like thrown up once, still hasn't eaten, is like very restless. So we end up going, well, it's like, well, there goes my afternoon to work on anything else. Let's go to urgent care. Cause like he's too old to just like wait it out.
Well, and especially when they're that old, and for a dog that's really food motivated, that's really unusual. You know what I mean? That's unusual. And I, because I was the one who told you I wouldn't wait, because what you had a chance to get him to see the vet on Friday, and I just thought that seems too long.
Yeah. And
Wait.
so we went to the urgent care, and we were there for like 3 hours, and they were great. This is Franklin Urgent Care and vet care. Everyone who worked there, like all the women they were all excellent. They were so nice. They're so helpful. But we were there for like 3 hours because the doctor was in surgery, so we were waiting for her to get out of surgery. And so they ended up running tests, and his blood work seemed fine. She's like, for an old man, his blood work's really good. So that was
that's
good. So it doesn't seem like it would be like spiked white blood cells and cancer or anything like that. They ended up just giving him fluids and some pain meds and some anti-nausea, and they gave us a bunch of things to monitor. So we came home, let him sleep. He pooped out some kind of demon on our brand new carpet. So that was
lovely.
Gross. And like, really, you couldn't do it on the hardwood floor? Like, God damn it. And, and so we ended up spending like $600 yesterday, which a lot of people, that not possible in a given month.
Absolutely.
Right. And so like, we were very fortunate where it certainly was like, well, that's money that evaporated, but also like we can. And it seems like he's doing better today. So maybe it was something, got his appetite back. And so it's something that just kind of maybe was passing through him. But like for me, I still was like, all right, that's expensive, but it's worth the peace of mind knowing, instead of sitting here waiting and watching him for 2 days, watching him be uncomfortable, not knowing what it is, wondering if it's something more serious like kidney failure or something like that.
Sure.
And it just got me thinking of like, what is the criteria or the decisions that go into once you have a pet and they get sick? Of like, what, like, and have you had that conversation? Like, if you're not a single pet owner, have you had that conversation with your partner as far as what your threshold is? Because it's expensive and you love them so much, but it's like, for their comfort and everything. And so I don't know. I just 844-967-2789. But 2 questions. What have you spent on a pet? What are you willing to spend? Or if you just have any fun stories on what's the weirdest thing your dog ate.
Because they do that.
Do you have stories?
Not about unusual things being consumed, but certainly stories about what we spent on Barkley. And I was shoveling. It was January. And I was shoveling in the front, and I hear him squeal from the backyard because we have a fenced-in yard. And they make different sounds when they're hurt.
Yeah.
Or something, it wasn't like an excited squeak or something like that. It was like he was hurt. So I run back there, and he's tossing this squirrel in the air.
So was the squirrel making noise?
Well, no, the squirrel bit him. The squirrel bit him. And yeah, so that's why Barkley squealed. And then, of course, the squirrel did not make it. But the vet made it because that was $250. So he bit him
For
on
the
the
s
neck
for the squirrel bite.
for the squirrel bites. So he bit him on the neck and he bit him on one of his paws.
And so
But
was
I
it for shots?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was for shots because you don't know what they might be
Yeah,
carrying
exactly.
if they're rabbit or something like that. But I know people who have spent between $8,000 to $10,000
Yeah.
for surgeries, for people have taken their dogs through chemo treatments.
Mhm.
Or if they're, I mean, even medication. If you have an older pet who has health problems, medications add up. But like you said, I don't have kids. I had furry kids.
Yeah.
This
And
was my thing. And as you said as well, I was able to do that. I was able to spend the money to do that. And a lot of people aren't able to do that. 844-967-2789, 844-96-PARTY. What's the most you've ever had to shell out for your sick pets? And what is the most unusual thing they've ever eaten? From the 6080 sick pet. I've been in Wisconsin way too long because I swear I thought Kristin was asking how much do you pay for a 6-pack?
That's really fun. Well, it depends on the beer, but
different conversation.
Different
but,
conversation. Shockingly, I will quick anecdote there. NA beer is basically as expensive as beer.
Is it really?
Yeah, and I've found some good ones. I've been very impressed with NA beer since this pregnancy started. But like Heineken Zero, Stella Zero, there's one that's made by the Guinness factory that's really good. That just like tastes like a light beer. And but they're the same price. So you might
that does not seem fair somehow.
Well, it still takes the product and the materials to make it, the materials to package it, actually shipping it. So, but yeah, it's not a break on the cost. But no, we're talking about a sick pet, not a six pack. I was very close though.
That's so funny. 844-967-2789, 844-96-PARTY. We love them. They're like family. I never had any discussions though, even when Paul and I got married, and I had Pierce for almost 18 years. And I spent what I needed to spend.
You did.
Yeah.
You're just like, I'm doing this. Sorry, Paul.
He's my boy. This is what we're gonna do.
And I had friends in Milwaukee who they have a big, I think he's a doodle of some sort, but a big dog. And the dog ate an entire corn cob, which a corn cob. So like not the corn, like the cob.
The cob.
Which cannot be digested. And they made the choice to get surgery, and he's like, that will be the last corn cob, because if he eats another one, we're not going back after it. We're not doing this again.
Am just stunned. So did they have to open up his stomach?
Yeah.
Oh, that poor puppy.
But that's the thing. It's like, rescuing Cliff, I've said multiple times, I was like, I don't know if I'll ever do a puppy again, because just not having to go through the training. Like, he came and he's so well behaved. He was so easy. As cute as puppies are, just having that puppy energy is a lot if you don't have the time and attention to give them. But also, and that's even yesterday when we were at the vet was monitoring him, in the conversation of like, well, like once they get older, they get smart enough not to eat random, like swallow random things. As far as I was like, he doesn't really play with toys. But like that puppy energy of just like, oh, let's test the boundaries of what I could fit down my throat. So it's like, I don't need to do that.
Well, they're very similar to toddlers in that way.
Yes.
Can I swallow this? Let's try it. What could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
And I don't know that I necessarily agree that they get smarter about what they should and should not swallow.
Really?
I don't know about that. If it smells good, I think there's a pretty good chance they'll give it a shot.
Well, now the unknown is, it's like, if it is something that he ate, trying to figure out what it was because
and where he got it from.
And where he got it from, because he's usually on a leash. Like, we don't have a yard to just let him out and like roam. He roamed a little bit while we were at my parents' house over the weekend because my mom has a big yard. But that, I feel like if it was from Sunday, he would have gotten sicker earlier in the week.
I'm not quite sure about the digestive tract of a dog.
I know,
you know, and how quickly things work their way through that little system. But I'm relieved that he's feeling better.
He's feeling better. I've been checking in on him in between the breaks, and he's just down there. He's got some kind of anti-anxiety pain med that's just zonked him out. He looks super high. Like he looks like a stone dog for sure.
He's at his own rave right now.
Yes, he'll be fine. But yeah, so I was just curious as far as because like, of course, I can't help but think now that I'm also pregnant while all this is happening, is like how much worse this will be when it's a sick kid. Of like how worried you are, like especially before they can talk and they can't tell you what's wrong.
Yes.
And you're just convinced that they're going to die, and all of the worst case scenarios are playing through your brain. And it's like, it's one thing when it's your dog, it's another thing you're like, God, this is really gonna suck when this kid inevitably gets sick, because they will, and they do a lot get sick. And so all right,
a little primer for you.
Little primer. It's a little test run. All right. Well, again, if you have any stories on the weirdest thing your pet ate or what you'd be willing to spend, we'll still take your calls and your texts on the other side of the break, 844-96-PARTY. And then we'll wrap up the show. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
The four most dreaded words. My computer is down. Oh boy, that bites. Remain sane. PC and Pat together will fix the pain. Rated #1 PC doctor in Southeast Wisconsin. Great service, great rates, and fast service with no trip charge. Experts with PCs, laptops, network servers, protection, backups, and can even help you remotely. Click PCandBack.com or call us at 262-706-3235. That's 262-706-3235. Remain sane. We fix the pain.
This is the story of a very special woman. Just a few knew about her superpowers. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adoptive mom. She said sometimes you just gotta hold on and know we'll get through this. Mom, we are so high up. Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt U.S. Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. A blend of clouds and sun this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 70. Winds out of the south, 8 to 15 miles an hour. Scattered thunderstorms likely tonight. Lows dip down to about 56. Cloudy skies expected. Overcast tomorrow. Scattered thunderstorms likely. Daytime highs approaching 64. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek.
I spent a lifetime looking for.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristin Bry. She is Jane Matnair. Jane, how much money would you have to be paid to be a contestant on The Golden Bachelor?
Oh. Ugh.
I haven't even told you what it is yet.
Okay, go ahead.
So, after years of teasing it would happen, ABC has finally given the green light to its long-awaited senior citizen season of The Bachelor.
No. No.
This fall, one lucky older man will embark on a journey to find love, flipping the formula of the Bachelor franchise, which for more than 2 decades has starred 20-something and barely 30-something singles. And the series will now be called The Golden Bachelor. And the leading man has yet to be announced. And his cast of female suitors will be announced at a later date. But the ABC is describing it as a new, it's a whole new kind of love story, one for the golden years.
This is terrifying.
Why is it so terrifying?
This is terrifying. If you've watched any of the 9,000 years of The Bachelor that we have had, can you imagine what they're going to do to these older women and how they're going to have to try and entice this old guy? Ew.
But I'm also wondering the dynamics because, like, everything I have experienced, and I'm not that old, but getting into my 30s is like with each year, the less F's I have to give, right? And like the likelihood of me trying to like change to impress a guy, or just in general, I feel like women who are more likely to be insecure and kind of putting male attention first, and a lot of kind of things that you identify like, oh yeah, I did that in my 20s and then I grew out of it. And so it's interesting to like, what are the kind of women that they're going to like interview and try to recruit to be the suitors? Because I just feel like most of the women I know as they get older, like they're not into that kind of, like they're just like, absolutely not.
Yeah, but this is going to be a place for all the real housewives of wherever their grandmothers can go on a show.
So they'll find them. They'll find the same attitude of the competitiveness and the cattiness and the attention seeking. That doesn't. There's still plenty of the women your age who are like that.
Absolutely. I worked with a young woman who told me, and this is within the last 5 years, her mother, who I believe was only in her 50s, said that if she wasn't pretty anymore, she didn't want to live.
No, really?
Yeah. Which I found shocking. If she wasn't pretty anymore, she didn't want to be alive. And I thought, how sad that all of your self-worth is completely tied up in what you see in the mirror.
And what people tell you look like.
Yeah.
Woof.
So I do believe they will have plenty of contestants. And I think the other reason why I am so repulsed by this idea is because many years ago, The Bachelor came to Milwaukee. They would come to Milwaukee looking for contestants.
Okay.
And so I got to deal with some of the behind the scenes producers and set people. They cast very specifically.
Which season was this? What year was this?
This is in the first 10 years, maybe first 6 years.
Was there a contestant who was from here?
There might have been a couple who made it
in Milwaukee. It was like the family. Meet the family. Like,
well, no, it was a casting event. It's like, if you want to be on The Bachelor, come and show up, and we'll go through. And they said some very not nice things about some of these young women who came, who were genuinely excited about the opportunity to meet someone, who were genuinely interested in a relationship. That's not the place to do that.
No.
It's
Wait,
not.
so why did you get to sit in on like the casting
Because
calls?
because we helped advertise it. The radio station I was working with at that time, we helped, come out and come to this thing, and The Bachelor people will be here, and you can, see if you can get on the show and everything. And so, again, there is nothing real about reality TV. No. Nothing. And I I'm going to worry in advance now for the women who are going to take part in this, because it's going to be the same kind of casting. You're going to have one who's the witch, the one who's super competitive. There's going to be some geriatric slut, unfortunately.
Don't slut shame, Jane.
Well, ew. Am I the only one who doesn't want to see this?
Well, I don't know, because I feel like to a certain, is there not an argument to be made as far as like representation and having different types of people, and there's all sorts of people that exist. And I guess if the only like 55 and older people they cast all look like they've had tons of work done and are not an actual representative of like what people look like at this age, and there isn't, if it doesn't feel like book club, I don't know if I want it.
Well, and I
or
would
80
be,
for Brady.
I would be very curious to see the male contestant being happy with someone who is actually his own age.
Oh, I wonder what the cutoff's going to be. Like, I wonder what the age range they're going to put. Like,
I just think an 80-year-old man is going to want to date a 55-year-old.
Yeah. But I like, do you think, oh yeah, I'm so interested. I honestly think they'll get ratings for this.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
Just not yours. You
doesn't
will not
mean
be
it-
tuning in.
Not a chance. I worry for these people. I worry for these women, I do. And the potential humiliation factor, but maybe that's just me.
But, the price of fame, Jane.
Yeah, well, enjoy
That
it.
Twitter follower will go up.
I know. And just look at all the track record of success that The Bachelor has had with happily hooking up people for generations.
All right. Well, on that note, we are ending today's show. Come back tomorrow for our Friday edition of As Goes Wisconsin. But as always, thank you for calling. Thank you for texting. Thank you for listening and being part of the show. Whenever you want to give us a suggestion or feedback, always shoot us an email at asgoeswisconsin@civicmedia.us. Follow us on social media. Listen to the podcast. So many different ways to engage and to listen. But we'll be back tomorrow to wrap up the week. Have a great day.
I'm dreaming of